Welcome to Cool Fucking Tech, where we discuss our takes on the latest tech.
We amplify the voices on the forefront of new solutions and explore the possibilities of creating a fair and equitable world.
So we had in a previous conversation, a line came up and basically we're talking about how hard it is to distinguish technology and art and the intersections between those. In one of the other conversations, we even said tech is art. So Tatenda, I was wondering if we could just dive deeper into that kind of crossroads and how they're kind of really married.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that line of thought up. It's something we've been thinking about, right? Over the past few episodes, and it's hard, especially right now, to imagine, in fact, ever, right? To imagine that tech was never a part of art. But it's one of those things where now that we look at it through a microscopic lens, you start realizing just how married the two are, right? And I think most recently it came about because we were just taking a look at how Kendrick Lamar had used deepfake technology in his latest music video, right? Which totally blew people away. It's not this technology hadn't or isn't widely available as yet, but it's just thinking about one, how it was used or how it was applied in that specific use case. And just also thinking about just looking at the technology itself, how brilliant of a creation or how brilliant of creations that we're making through using technology. We're creating new original works from existing representations, which is really what the concept of, at least in some aspects of what art is, right? So that's kind of the opening thought dump on you.
Fuck yeah. No, I think it's really fucking intense. There's kind of two aspects of it. One is the history of technology and art and how they interplayed with each other. And then now there's the kind of aspect of how society aligns people's intellect as being, left-brained or right-brained. And they kind of try to aliquot the person to being an engineer versus an artist rather than aligning them to both, And so I think one thing that you really hit on with the Kendrick Lamar deepfake music video and stuff is really these visual imagery, even from the dawn of time, there was a material science aspect to it. So even if we go from making paints and what colors we could do out of the paints, and then we're even still creating new colors in material science, the black is black or the blue is blue. Man. You know what I'm saying? And that shit is so dark that it changes your perception of what dark is even, just to begin with. And then now in a way, the artists are able to use a different paint, if you will. But it just so happens that this paint that we're talking about with Kendrick Lamar is a deep fake video, right? So I just think that's mind-boggling in and of itself, how we're still coming up with paints. That's the thing that really gets me. If we're to talk about it in a modular, multi-step fashion, it's what are we really doing? We're really making new toolkits to creatively interjunct the human emotion,
Absolutely.
So I hope I added to your thought dump there, man.
I've got a segue. Yeah. You're a chemical engineer by training, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this makes sense. I'm why is he putting emphasis on the paint? The man is
right. With an emphasis in nanotech,
With the emphasis in nanomaterials. Let's start the whole podcast right there. This is the podcast that Mark has been waiting on. Ladies and gentlemen. This is
fuck videos. Let's talk about materials.
let's talk about materials. Yeah, right. As I was just as usual, right? When you start doing research into these things, you discover more and more. I had no idea that Salvador Dali had a whole exhibit with just holograms in it, a body of work that consists of holograms.
I didn't even know that. I'm just
That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess this was a specific or particular interest to me, just thinking about tech, art, and I guess like that intersection and almost like this renaissance of immersive art that we're in right now.
I fucking love the fact that you brought like Renaissance, because like one of the things, so like I was like, oh, engineering and art, and I was wondering, when did they become viewed as divergent?
That's pretty much it's that's what I've been thinking about right now.
And
like
then yeah, so I started like looking into the history, dude, and like Renaissance is like the ultimate time when everyone was like, no, these are the fucking same. Like, like Leonardo da Vinci, like the realism movement and how they're just dissecting bodies.
right.
Like, they're fucking war engineers that are also doing like brilliant, beautiful paintings, like artist after artist. And they're just like, no, like these are synonymous. These are entirely, it was the prevalent thought that these go together. Right. And I'm just kind of curious, like, where the fuck did we get this idea that they're separate? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
it's the whole like maybe this is just me like freestyling an answer as I usually do. Never well thought out. But maybe like there was a classist element to it where maybe the engineers thought that the artists were just like off daydreaming, and like we're the ones that are actually designing things and putting nuts and bolts together, and maybe vice versa. And maybe that's where like there was that those two worlds kind of split. I could be wrong, but I definitely think that you can't separate the two. I was looking at, there's this competition. It's called something like the International Obfuscated C Programming Challenge or something like this, right? But they bring together people to write obfuscated C programs. It's like if you've written a piece of code, right? You could write a one-line piece of code to print out "Hello World" to a terminal, right? And so the point of the competition is to make it a really convoluted piece of code, which will allow you to achieve this really simple thing, and some people do like, amazing things. Like one, which I looked at today, he basically wrote a program, which if you look at the text of the program, it looks like a clock face. And when you run the program, right, this clock face ticks and shows you like, time moving in real time. You know what I mean? So things like that. I know it's like he's an engineer, he's a computer scientist, but also at the same time, he's created a really beautiful to look at and to run program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like having this chat with a coworker of mine. Like he was blown away by the same thing. Like I always go back, like every like 5 or so years, it comes up again somehow in my conversations with people. But that's the thing. Like we definitely aren't in a zone or in a time frame where we can still continue to separate the two. Like scientists are artists and artists are scientists. You know what I mean?
I like totally agree with you. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we share opinions that are exactly the same, but at the same time, I mean, that I just moved from like the Bay to LA.
Yeah.
And it's night and day, the way people approach art and the way people approach science. Like in the Bay, no one reads like a fucking book for fun. They read like entrepreneurship books, like just talking about how they make money. And like, if you name drop like an artist, if you name drop like even like simple things, it becomes like a very prestige oriented, like very like, oh, I know this, but it's all still like revolved around a fluency. Right. Mm-hmm. And then in LA, it's the exact opposite. Right. Like now all of a sudden, if I name drop an artist, that's just common talk. Like a new exhibit, that's in the common vernacular. Right. Right. But then if I say engineering, if I say, hey, I'm a chemical engineer, I work in tech though, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I seem like the elitist douchebag, right? Like now they're all like, oh, okay. Like somebody has to, show off here, like.
I can't believe they think you're in tech, bro. Like, I mean, we're in tech, but I don't think we're like tech. Maybe we are. You know what I
think
mean?
we're kind of tech bro, dude. We have a podcast.
No,
where
but we
think our
don't
opinion
do.
matters.
Okay, I don't know about you, but do you go around like putting the podcast in people's faces, like, "Hi, listen to my podcast." You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, that's like my opener line, man.
Just by the way, like, I don't know who Mark is anymore. This is deep Mark, like deep fake Mark. You know, this is the new Mark. But
Tatenda's been clowning on me that I'm going to become like an LA fake guy, and I think he underestimated how short of a time frame I can make the transformation.
But I had like so many like random thoughts around, I guess, specifically deepfake technology.
Let's hear it.
Let's start with like a really like easy one, which is related to holograms, right? Like, you know, the tech that they use to do the Tupac hologram.
Dude, literally, I was gonna talk about that, man. Hell yeah. Let's get into it.
That tech is so old. It's like 400 centuries old, right? Like, it's called like Pepper's Ghost or something like this, right? Which is you're basically doing a projection onto a surface which reflects onto your viewing medium, which is on the screen, right? Which is on the stage. Sorry, right? So that's how they kind of make this image appear as if it's like right there on the stage with the performer or the artist or whatever, right? And that's how they pulled off the Tupac thing. But then, like, it's not a hologram, it's not 3D, it's a 2D projection. But this is where, like, you know, things start to get interesting once you start applying like modern day technologies to these techniques, because now with, you know, deep fake technology, which is just really making use of artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to create a more realistic depiction of someone, you know, those kind of tricks become better. They become more realistic. And that's like, you know, something that's also very interesting, like seeing that reuse of technologies happen and seeing us incorporate new and interesting technique, new paints, as it were, to existing methods. So I thought that was like very interesting. I don't know if they use deepfake with the Tupac thing, but that's also an avenue that, you know, people could go for, you know.
Yeah, I think like the cool fucking thing about art, right, and engineering in a way is like art in some way has to reconnect the dots, not necessarily, but in this case, in the manifestation that we're talking about, like it reconnects the dots of the visual processing on the human side, right? Mm-hmm. And so like one thing that I'm thinking about when you're discussing this is like holograms are cool, they're ancient, but the way that we keep remanifesting it, it has a new like vibe of reality to us because they did something new that makes it slightly more realistic. So like, for instance, like, yes. I don't think the hologram was like particularly innovative, but I do think it was at a grander scale when they did the Tupac thing. I could tell it. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And then now that we're talking about like a life scale fucking human doing a concert, all of a sudden, like, you know, that is itself an innovation in a way, because now the brain is processing. Now the brain can't rule out that this thing is fake because of its size, because of its spatial awareness, right? Yes. Now it's fake because it's emitting light. It has some sort of like a little unnatural motion, but the obstacles I have to overcome to determine that it's fake are much greater now, that there's so much more minute details that I'd have to notice to make sure that's fake.
Yes, absolutely.
One cool thing is like, you know, these visual depictions that are not like emitting light per se, like in a hologram in like the real world, like, yeah, people don't really, I mean, they glow, but they don't glow like a hologram, you know? So like, I think like the closest analog situation I could talk about, I don't know if it's QLED or OLED, but like the black on the TV is an off. It's not all colors at once, right? So the TV, the depiction that you read off the TV visually, it looks more real because now it has depth. Mm-hmm. It's not emitting light. Does that make sense? So like normally on older TVs, black is all colors at once. So it's emitting light even though it's black, which is a weird thing to think of.
Right.
right? But I was just like, man, that'd be really fucking cool where like, you know, somehow it's not emitting light and it's a hologram. Or even, you know, deep fakes on a QLED, man. Like that'd be much more hard to tell as like fake. And then like it's just kind of cool how we're tricking ourselves. We're artistically tricking ourselves to see things realistically, right? So like I think there's like some sort of analog there with like, you know, realism. There is there was a movement in art, by the way, Tatenda. I don't know. I think it was like in the 1920s or 1930s. It was right after they invented the camera. Okay. And artists were fucking pissed. Okay. So artists were worried that they're going to lose their job painting because the camera could take a real picture of whatever the scenery is. So what these artists did is they made paintings. They basically took realism to another level, and it's called photorealism movement. Okay. And they took basically scenes and literally made it look extremely, extremely, extremely real. It looks real. It looks like a picture, but the paintings themselves have no emotion. And it's basically their critique on just being real versus showing in an emotion or having a point to come across with that art. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, shit, that's so cool. So like, I think we see it in some ways today too, just like connect back the dots again. It's like, there's a bunch of deep fakes, but like, they're not deep fakes in the sense that like, you know, have like Obama, you know, saying stupid shit, right? Like, obviously that's fake. But like, if you made Obama say something like slightly off and I have to question like my own Mandela effect, that is like scary as fuck to me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Now I had to be like, did that really happen in 2008? Or like, did that happen like when I first elected him? Like, was I stupid? Was that wrong? You know, like,
right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess specific like those are some of the challenges that are there specifically with this deep fake technology is, as with anything, right? If you put it in the hands of someone with some nefarious, you know, motives, then that could be a tricky situation or scenario for people to puzzle out about. But the interesting thing is that, like you said, like one, if it's being used in sort of like an attack or propaganda or something like that, it's really hard to decipher or tell the difference between who the real person is or whether or not the thing you're looking at is a deep fake. And the other thing is, what was I going to say? The other thing is like, what I thought was interesting was like the ways in which technology is also starting to evolve to actually detect deep fakes. You know what I mean? So that's like, it's always like very fascinating to me. Like, it's again, another one of those problems where, like we talked about in the artificial intelligence podcast, where we're using, you know, machine learning to detect when some machine learning is going wrong.
we're using machine learning to create the problem that machine learning has made.
it's so mind-blowing. It's so mind-blowing. It's
yeah,
like,
I've literally been reading about that technology like for this. I think it's so funny how we end up like reading the same shit, like just because our minds are like sifting through the internet in the same way.
I know. But I think it's like, it's kind of ridiculous though. Like, I don't know. It's like Coca-Cola selling toothpaste. You know what I mean? Like, we know that, you know, we created this thing that's going to corrode your teeth and now we have a cure for it. Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Jeopardy. Hell yeah, man.
Oh my God. I thought that was like very fascinating.
So I did want to touch on something that you said, right? Which is like Nefarious.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really fucking interesting in so many ways. And a lot of times we talked about like the good of tech, specifically because we started this podcast, like talking about BIPOC entrepreneurship and BIPOC tech and how it affects, you know, day-to-day people, right? Like, and there's something really interesting here, which is like, is any art can it not be subversive, right? Like art, like good art challenges the opinion to begin with, right? Like,
true.
You know what I'm saying? Like you look at a Bansky, you know, like I hope I said that name right. But like he's just talking shit. You know, Dismal Land. Dismal Land is like literally just like fuck Disneyland, fuck everything you think is like right. Like look at the ugly underbelly of so many things, like the corporate industrial military complex, like
Right.
look at all this wrong in the world. Yeah, it's just beautiful art. It challenges you. People like it sticks in your mind, right? So that's like one thing is like, okay, how are we going to judge nefariousness of like deep fakes? Because like even in this conversation, we're like, fuck yeah, Kendrick Lamar. And then we're like, fuck no,
Right.
Obama saying
Obama can't say that.
shit. Yeah, right. So there is a philosophical question here,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to outright say it to Tenda, and I'm going to ask you it, okay?
Oh,
So
God. Not
basically,
really.
is who owns the interpretation of art? Is it the creator of the piece? Is it the people that receive the piece? Or is it somewhere in between those two? And why? You had to give me a why. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
College admissions test.
I think, as with any art form,
Look at this smile. You guys can't see it, but Tatenda is the gears are turning, guys.
no. It's a really simple answer. I was just like trying to think a little bit more on it, but you put me on the spot. But the simple answer is it's not the artist.
Really? So you think, okay, so
First of all,
you're going to get like a 1-2 here. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
but let me just
Yeah.
qualify that. It's not the artist because then they'd be out of the job, right?
Damn, that's a
Like if every artist
you just
like
shrug your shoulders.
think about it, right? Like if like Kendrick drops his album and
Mhm.
then he immediately goes to Rap Genius and explains every line in the song.
Right. But here's the like antithesis, right? One is like, okay, so is the success of art monetary, right? There's like all these great artists who are never fucking famous when they were artists. You know what I'm saying? And like there's current analogs to that. Like I would even say people are going to give me a fucking bunch of shit for this, but like Nipsey Hussle, like he is way more popular because there's so many like rappers that are way more popular because they died.
So I want to
You know what I'm saying?
what I want to say is that, man, you asked a lot of questions, man. I don't even know which one to start answering.
No, I mean, like,
But,
like you can't
so the point which I'm trying to make is that it's supposed to evoke. It may or may not evoke an emotional response in whoever is interacting with it, right? It may or may not evoke a response, right? The degree or the extent to which the artwork is received and it emotes people or creates emotion within people is what then creates, I guess like the revenue aspect of it, which is what you're saying. Like, sometimes it's like the artist creates art, sometimes for themselves, but whether or not that results in a monetary exchange or some sort of value, that can really like be unknown at the jump. You know what I mean? But I also feel like sometimes maybe those ideas or those pieces don't necessarily resonate with us at that time because maybe our consciousness isn't aligned to those things at that time, right? Which is maybe why it takes some time for us to discover or appreciate certain artists after maybe their demise, or maybe they're not in the mainstream anymore. It's just a matter of consciousness, right? So this is where the second part of your question is harder, right? Like there's that gray area of the consciousness, right? If the consciousness that's prevailing right now is like, okay, cubism ain't the thing, you know what I mean? Then everybody's just gonna be skewed towards that, unless you're so well, I guess, like in your own ways of thinking that you can appreciate things you can appreciate things more objectively than the average person.
Mhm.
Then you wouldn't be affected by that. That's kind of like what I was trying to why I say, okay, like for sure it's not the responsibility of the artist, but when it comes to it being the responsibility of the consumer, that's where it gets tricky, right? Like you also have to battle the consciousness, the current consciousness or the zeitgeist of the moment.
Right. Yeah, I feel like consciousness, like with what you're saying, it's almost like context too. Like,
yes,
like what is like what are the symbology, that I'm even fucking working with to like understand the thought process, you know,
Yes.
like, and in that way, it's really weird because like coding is really a system of symbols that we use to make the machine understand the human thought process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just like, I don't know, man. It's all weird to me. I don't know how I would answer that same question, but you were just like, yo, fuck the artist, man. You just went hard. Like, I just feel like, you know, there are some artists out there who like say something and it gets taken out of alignment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I hate to use this example, but like Chappelle.
And
you know what I'm saying?
I think it's perfectly fine though.
Like perfectly fine in what sense? Like perfectly fine as in like in what sense do you mean that?
I think it's okay for artists to be misunderstood is what I'm trying to say. Like,
I see.
It's okay for us to take things out of context. It's okay for us to foster our own perceptions on, you know, basically like rely on our own experiences and perceptions on how we interpret the art piece. I think it's perfectly fine.
Do you think it's okay for somebody to use technology to create the most wild fucking art no matter what then? I know I said that like in a super extreme manner, but like there is a lot of really fucking bad things people could do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just like crossing imagery and like there's just so many bad things that we could do with like under the guise of art, you know?
Yeah. There's the whole like celebrity porn videos.
Exactly. And honestly, that's not even like the worst type of porn you can create with deep fakes. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. I think it's wrong. But there are, you know, we're really nearing the edge of like a really brutally lurid world. You know, like
so things start to get, you know, once you start getting into the zone, right? Like into the fringes, right? That's where you start really seeing like there's still, I would say, very interesting applications. And I don't think that we have the power to stop people from taking these paths. But again, like it's up to us to decide, right? It's up to each individual to decide whether or not that is acceptable to them. And also, like, I guess there is the aspect of like, you know, what are you using it for? If it's like outside of the bounds of acceptable use according to, you know, according to the law, then, you know, you have to you have to take responsibility for that.
But
you know
like,
what I mean?
but like, I guess I get where you're going, right? But you're taking it from a very like consumer end, right? Like the consumer of art, the consumer of the product, the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what about the responsibility of the artist? What about the responsibility of the coder? What about the responsibility of the tool maker? Like, you know, like I guess.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
If deepfake was used to, you know, to defraud a company of millions of dollars, should we sue the creator of deepfakes or the criminal that used the deepfake?
Yo, which company? No, but like, I guess like, okay, so like Einstein, like he didn't get involved in like creating a nuclear bomb because he wrote the equation and he knew what it could be used for. He had the creativity to know like, hey, this is going to kill millions of people. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Now, if somebody is like, you know, I feel like the creator of the deep fakes, like I have to understand what role did that guy play versus the guy who is defrauding the company, right? Like, and I do feel like the artist is somewhat responsible for the interpretation of he's crafting the message to begin with. How could he not be responsible? So like if that person that created the deep fakes was just doing it at a purely technological level, there is still some responsibility. If he was doing it like and manipulating it so it looks like the CEO of like, you know, company B that is entering a transaction with company A to defraud millions, then for sure, right? It's a very cold, clear case, right? But like, I think as an engineer, right, like you should have some creativity about like the cataclysmic effects of the technology you're creating and like put some good balance. It's kind of like, I guess there's another analog here, which is it ties back to like an older episode, right? Which is like, yo, you're trying to make an NFT, right? Like, are you responsible if you defraud the person? It's like, okay, well, how did you like what actually happened? What were the steps that went down? What role did you play? You know, like in what was the thing you said? Like a token switch or like a key pair switch or a key pair?
Yeah.
To do the rug pull?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, that one's obvious, but like, what happens if it happened after the fact or like, you know, in the middle of the transaction, you know, like, and it was unbeknownst to you or like, you know, there's a lot of questions.
Right.
But, you know, if you're in the business, you should you should try to mitigate the risk, you know, like.
There's definitely like some work, right? Like I'm just, looking at this from a purely engineering perspective, which is what we said we shouldn't do in the first place.
Purely engineering artist perspective.
But like when you're designing a system, right? It's all a part of like, system design. You try to basically like run through a lot of like use cases and scenarios and things of that nature. Like,
yeah,
you're not gonna cover everything, but there's definitely is a responsibility in that specific use case. And maybe like in all, like if you just look at it from a scientific point of view, right? Like you got to think about all these things, right? Like, and make sure that you don't intentionally do harm. I think that's a fair kind of responsibility that you can put on an engineer and an artist. Like, don't do harm,
Yeah, I think like
after that, it's like if somebody else runs with it, breaks all your safeguards, then what are you gonna do?
Right. Like, so today at work, right? Like, I'm one of those like super lame PMs who always like uses these buzzword phrases like gamify, right? And then like, we're talking. I know, laugh, bro. Fuck you, man. But we're talking about like basically data entering through two different channels and how upon ingestion at one channel, we could make sure that the data doesn't have these certain set of errors, right? But upon ingestion at another channel, we can't make sure that it has this certain set. So we're talking about like controls and this kind of data streamline and how we make these things match because they end up in the same repository, for lack of better terms, right? So it's just like, as the engineer, as the PM, like that should be your fucking first question, right? Like, how do I reduce, in a way, how do I reduce error is how do I reduce harm? Like, and in a way, art is a reduction of harm in a very, very like contrived way, right? Like the need for humans to communicate human aspects is a reduction of harm, right? Because like without art, we're fucking miserable. Like we are harmed. It's just gloom. It's just sadness. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and art will take on these forms to like, basically, I'm looking for like, I guess the thing I'm going to say right now, for lack of better words, is like augment the human experience, right? It's like makes us more human. When I go to a gallery, when I go to a show, when I go to like, have a good fucking coffee, like, or a good drink, like somebody took time to craft it and I feel more fucking human for whatever primitive brain reason I have.
We're
and I'm all like, this is fucking cool.
Man. What'd you say? I say we're sensory. I'm just like piggybacking off what you say. Bro.
Yeah.
Right? We're very like sensory creatures, and I think I agree with you there. Right? Like it augments the human experience. So I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, man. It's just like, it's kind of, so like in a way, like, the end goal is like, if the end goal is harm reduction and if the pursuit is like, getting to that end point, then an engineer and an artist occupationally is the same.
True.
Right?
Like
just the manifestation
way
is
to
different.
Think about it.
You know, like, I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, my dude.
Yeah, if you, man, dude, you're so smart, dude. Damn.
Shut the fuck up.
Think about it though, right? Like I like the harm reduction thought process in the sense that they are definitely like numerous engineering projects that are set out to do just that, right? Like minus all the AI stuff in which we create the hammer, then try to solve the problem.
But they don't phrase it like that at the outset. You know what I'm saying? They just like, you get what I'm saying? Like some guy is not he's short-sighted, but he's not malicious, like
right. So okay. So that's I guess like the counter to all of this that you're saying, right? Is like unfortunately not all artists have a mark, to cross-check their systems.
Patronize the fuck out of me, bro.
You know what I mean? Like if we could just like run everything by mark to ensure harm reduction, that would be great artists and engineers,
Let me be the PM of the world, bro.
Man, yeah. So I have a segue, which I thought was kind of funny. It's a funny story, actually.
Let's do it.
It's NFTs again, right? Like, NFTs just like won't go away from this podcast.
No, they won't, dude.
But
not until we make one.
So it's specifically. Have y'all heard about the Bored-Tatenda?
No, shut your fucking mouth.
Anyway, go listen to episode something. It's in there. There's a Bored-Tatenda gem somewhere in there. All right, I'll try to make this quick, right? So there's a story about a app that is being designed like right now, which seeks to reclaim African art in digital form, right? So they call this app Looty, Looty. And what they do is they go to museums which have like, these African artifacts that were looted from back in the day. So like the Benin bronzes, for example, right? They go to this museum, use an app to do a digital scan of the art piece, recreate it in 3D, and then make it available for viewing through their platform, right?
Fuck yeah.
And one of the ideas is that they want to basically then sell the NFTs associated with those scans in order to raise awareness and funds to support artists that would otherwise not benefit from any sort of would otherwise not benefit from the looting of their art in the first place, right? So that's kind of like, what in fact, not kind of, but this is exactly what their idea is, right? So there's two things which are relevant to this discussion. I actually think that them scanning and creating representations of those artwork is art itself. That's an artwork, an original artwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really. It's like you ever seen like all these different ways of how they copy paintings?
Yes.
It's like a different way of copying now a physical piece. But you know what? Honestly, Tatenda, like there's some cool ideas here, but there's so many more doubts in my mind. So go on. Just because you did preference it with like NFTs, and we have like this ongoing let's shit on NFTs mentality. So like
So
yeah, go on.
I don't know, like the selling of NFTs. I don't think you need NFTs in order to raise funds to support artists on the continent, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. I definitely do think, like I said, the idea of digitally archiving art is amazing, especially considering that there's just some artworks which we don't have access to thanks to colonialism, right? Like it'll cost me more to visit France and go see that Benin bronze in whatever museum it is than to just like download this app and, take a look at. So I think from that perspective, from the digital archiving perspective, they're doing a great job. Like that's one thing that I can say there. Like the NFT side of it, like, I don't know.
I think the NFT side of it, like in and of itself, is like the fuckery, right? Like, because NFTs, okay, let's be frank here, right? The blockchain essentially, and we kind of went into this, it's a way of creating a land deed. It's a way of creating digital ownership.
Yes.
Right? It's a way of fencing people.
Yes.
And the whole fucking problem of these art pieces is like the fact that they're owned by the people who they're not owned by, or they weren't created by,
That is a bigger problem, for sure.
So you're telling me you're solving the problem of ownership via fencing off other people from ownership, and I'm not buying it, man. Like, okay, I get you got your money, you sold it like that, but like, No, like it should be like open source Benin artifacts, open source Egyptian artifacts, open source Sudanese
Absolutely.
artifacts, open source.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, like I don't even know, man. Like even like the verbiage of it, the artistic verbiage, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
why? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about like trying to classify art as I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I'm just like, why are we putting up this wall rather than accepting it in like the common thread of like human art?
What do you mean?
Like I mean like why is it being like discussed as like, oh, this is like African art, like, and these are the, as if like it's like one nation that owns all this art, as if it's like one, like, why is there this like weird delineation, like, rather than like counting it as like the contribution to humanity that it is?
I
You know
think
what I'm saying?
the
Like,
maybe the problem I think is for sure one with the ownership,
right.
right? So
I'm gonna change ownership to monetization scheme here.
um
You know what I'm
no,
saying? But
okay. How did I guess like the question is like one, these museums have pretty much control to who can access that art,
amen. Okay, I could get behind that. Yeah.
right? And that's really like where the problem begins. It's like, first of all, if we can correct that and say, you know, this should be publicly available and easily accessible to everybody, then you know, I don't care who owns it. You know, just don't be sitting in the Louvre, you know, making bank of these art pieces, you know, that, you know, you didn't necessarily get rightful ownership
You
to.
didn't pay for,
You didn't
right? There's no
exactly. That's
transaction.
exactly. That's
There's no
really like
kickback.
what the issue there is.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that, but like that's undoubtedly not what they're doing in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like it goes back to the ownership with the ownership problem solving as opposed to like ownership versus like open source or like
Yeah.
free to use or free or like wiki commons or you know that's one aspect, but then like I guess another aspect is like in a larger scale you're trying to solve partisan problems of like disparagent economies at a very large scale. Like you said it right, the problem is like there's no kickback for this artifact, right? There's these communities that were essentially exploited,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then now like so it creates this ongoing, I'm a fan of the idea that like minorities and stuff are largely like a socioeconomic, are caused off of socioeconomics. Like, you know, you go to any different part of the world, right? You know, there's not the same minorities, right? It's just the poorer group. It's just the poorer group, right? So like one is like why there's a really fanciful part of me that like wants to believe like, hey, if you don't call out the partisan or if you don't call out or like delineate it in a way, like, yeah, you could target where the money goes to. Yeah, you could target like where the extortion happened.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. Like, I just like, I guess a part of me like wants to feel like it should be acknowledged as like, you know, meaningful moments for humanity. You know, the Benin Walls was a meaningful moment for humanity. Accra is a meaningful trade town for humanity. Alexandria is a meaningful port town for humanity, right? And it's just like, I just feel like sometimes these words are used as like, oh, it's just like a side piece. Oh, it's just like something that happened. Oh, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why? I don't know. I maybe my thoughts are not like fully fleshed out here, but like I guess a part of me feels like upset in a way that it's like it's denoted in a way that makes it seem diminutive for what the contribution was for all of us that we've all
Absolutely.
benefited from.
Yeah.
The technology wrapped up in the art. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's
No.
beautiful things like blue dye in Egypt was actually like a huge artistic innovation. Like
Right.
so.
No, it's not something. I don't think these are. I guess like any of these discussions that we're having are by no means complete within the 45 minutes to an hour that that we typically go for. So there's always room to refine our thoughts and think things through. But as usual, like this is definitely a platform for us to think through these things, right? To see where technology is kind of leading us, to see where innovation is going. So one thing which I wanted to get your take on while we're on this topic, like if there will be an intersection between like all the metaverse stuff and like all this deepfake stuff, like instead of it being 8-bit character that's Mark in the metaverse, like
that's Idris Sandu on his profile picture. Yo, Idris, what's up? I gave you a shout out.
Right. I guess do you see that it's coming, right? Like, or at least like people are trying to do this. Like, do you see that being something that is gonna eventually draw people in? Realistic depictions of people, realistic depictions of art, even within the metaverse, right? Like all these kind of like intersections between art, between technology, and I guess the current zeitgeist, which is moving us towards metaverse based interactions,
properties. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, oh man, that's really fucking. So like, the thing is like these are hype terms.
Yeah.
Like, what is deep fake? What is metaverse? What is like, how is VR related to metaverse? Because like, if I was to think about it really hard,
yeah,
right? Like, I guess porn is in the metaverse already, like with the VR headsets and like it's POV and shit like that, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think like,
right.
it's like a deep fake of like having human interaction, but not like a deep fake in the idea that like, it's a person. I mean, it is a person in another person, right? Like,
yeah.
But like, it's just like, it's you rather than avatar being recreated into another avatar, right? Like, I mean, I could only imagine that it gets far worse, but also far more random. Like, I feel like if somebody was really to be able to create their avatar, to create a digital presence, to create a digital universe in which to interact with for a long time, I think technology is going to like enable people to do whatever the fuck they want, right? And then there's going to be this crunch point where people are going to get paid at every step of you doing whatever you want, and then now your options are limited, and it's going to be more and more mirroring to real life. Like, all these people are investing like, all this big buku bucks and like metaverse and just like, yep, you can visit McDonald's. Yep, you can do this.
Yeah.
But like, I sure as shit guarantee you in 10, 20 years from now, they're gonna be like, nope, that cheeseburger for your avatar is going to cost $20, like,
yeah,
you're going to get the basic edition, like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, what I do hope though is, and I think this is like where I'm going to close it off at, is like, I do hope that people that have been traditionally left out of the economies are able to monetize these new paints, these new technologies, create and make money off it. Like, if Kendrick Lamar is making some fucking cool ass shit with a music video and getting paid out for it, amen, dude. Like, if it creates new avenues for BIPOC entrepreneurship, intergender entrepreneurship, intersectional entrepreneurship, then fuck yeah, amen. You know what I'm saying? Like spatial labs, we're looking at you, man. Like, create this AR, VR option.
Yeah.
Create the toolkits for the artists to play with, like,
and get paid. I think that's like really,
yeah,
that is the biggest, one of the biggest issues that's there right now, right? Like, we have a lot of, digital entrepreneurs within our communities, but they never get paid. Like, it's hard to build systems that are fairer. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We get TikTok, right? Like, we have a lot of like creators, Black creators creating content, and you know how that goes. Like,
they're not able to monetize. Yeah,
they're not able to monetize it.
Yeah, man. I came from Twitch, like minority after minority, man. It's like, well, not all minorities, but a lot of like African American minorities, like their ability to monetize on Facebook, their ability to monetize on TikTok. It's way harder because the algorithm doesn't even favor you. The production value of your stuff too, to get like syndicated creation production is like way harder. It's just everything is kind of working against you in some way, and it makes that monetization scheme hard.
Right. Yeah, it's a big opportunity for innovation right there. I agree.
Right.
All right, Mark, thank you for your time, my king. It's amazing talking to you. And any closing remarks?
You're a fucking pharaoh, and you're an artist on this podcast.
Yo, we are artists, actually.
Content creators, at least, right?
Content creators. This art. It's art.
Hey, amen, bruh.
Talk to you later, dog. Peace.
Peace.